Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we're going to try and do another art doll fusion. If you didn't see the last episode when we did an art doll fusion, basically just like Pokemon fusion, we're going to take two creatures, combine them, and make one art doll that hopefully doesn't look like a mess. Anyways, we are going to take a cup. I've got a bunch of different names of creatures in here, and we're going to see what we're going to work with. So I'm going to draw the first name, show it to you, and then we are going to get the other one. So I got one. Okay. First creature is a rabbit. Okay, so let's see what our rabbit is going to be combined with. Our rabbit is going to be combined with a lion. This one could be interesting. Okay, this one's going to be a challenge. I think I'll pick, I don't know which one I'm going to focus on as the main character. Let's figure out. Anyways, let's get started. Okay guys, at first I thought this one was going to be kind of complicated. I didn't think it was going to work out because I really couldn't picture how a rabbit and a lion would work well together. But then I kind of thought about it a little bit more and I realized there's a kind of mythical creature called a cabbit, which is basically a cat and a rabbit. So I thought I could do kind of a variation of that and maybe just throw in different features. Mainly because if you look up cabbits, they're mainly focused around the style of a cat, and then the back end is kind of a rabbit. So it has the short tail and the longer, more bouncier legs. So I figured I could do something similar to that, except change up the features and maybe throw in more rabbit features in the face and give it rabbit ears. And then since it is going to be a lion, we'll throw in a mane and stuff like that. So right now I'm going to focus on making the clay pieces. I'm going to make the clay face and then we can make some paw pads. I was messing around with more of my resin eyes and I made these really cool glittery ones with black glitter as the middle. So I decided that I wanted to use these and kind of give it more of a fantasy twist to it because I'm going to go with a lot of more natural colors and I figured maybe adding some purples and glitter to the face would be a little interesting. So I'm going to throw these in. I want to give it some really wide eyes, so that's why I'm going to be using these and not glass eyes. I'm going to start building up the clay around the eyes, making the cheekbones and kind of a little bit of the brow, and then I'm going to start focusing on the snout. So my idea for the snout is to mainly go for a rabbit snout, the nose and everything, except I'm going to have the mouth slightly gapped open and I'm going to have some sharp teeth in there. And that way we can get more of that lion feel, because right now it looks too much like a really big-eyed rabbit. So for this, I'm going to use some balls of clay. I'm going to lay out where the lips are going to go and the top of the nose, start blending everything together and shaping it, and then I can start separating the lips a little bit and adding the teeth. So for the teeth, I'm just going to take small balls of clay and kind of roll them out into little cones and place them into the position that I want them. Those are going to be for more of the canine teeth, and then for the little tiny one, I'm just going to put a layer of clay down and break it up into 4 tiny teeth. I think I'm just going to be putting the top teeth in because I don't really feel like messing around with having the mouth open enough to have the bottom teeth showing. And then after I'm done with the snout, I'm going to clean up the edge around the base of the head, that way it's nice and smooth. I'm going to make sure everything is nice and smooth for later so when we add the fur it's not rough or bumpy. And then I'm going to add some holes for where we're going to add some ears later. Then we're going to put this in the oven for probably about 35-45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. And while that's baking, we can start working on the paw pads. So the last time we did our fusion challenge, I decided to go with just making the paw pads and having the whole leg plush. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one, just because I kind of like the look of it and I think it would look well with a rabbit. I think having clay toes would be just a little too much. I was kind of debating on giving it claws, so if you guys wanted to make like a cabbit that's more lion-like, you could add claws to the end. But I'm going to keep it a little bit softer. I didn't want to go too far with the lion because I figured it'd look a little too aggressive. So for making our paw pads, I first laid out a thin layer of clay. We're going to use this as our base to build our paw pads on, and then I'm going to use some balls of clay and lay those out where the little toe pads and different things will be. I'm going to check references to make sure that I have them positioned correctly, and I'm going to go for more of a lion paw pad than I am a rabbit paw pad. So I'm going to get those all laid out. I'm going to then blend them into the surface clay and then add a texture to them. And then after that's done, I'm going to clean up the edges because I don't need this much clay going around the paw pad. It's going to be a lot easier to take all of that away, plus it saves clay. So after that, I put these in the oven for roughly about 35 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. So we're going to let all of our clay bake, and then we can start painting them. So the first thing that I'm going to do paint-wise is I'm going to start with the clay face, and I'm going to primer it a white. Now I know the clay is kind of white-ish, but I want it more of a pure white. Now I'm actually going to be furring my face, so you're probably wondering why I'm actually painting everything, and that's because I don't want the weird like off-white color to sneak through the fur that I'm going to add to the face, because the fur that I'm going to add to the face is going to be a white. I figured using white fur would make it look a bit more bunny-like, so I'm going to go with that. So that's why I'm painting everything white. After I had the white down, I let it dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to start adding some pink highlights. Now what's really cool is when we do the furring for this, some of the pink is also going to show through, and it'll make it look a little bit more natural than just having a plain white face. So I'm going to focus around the under portion of the eyes, maybe a little bit above the eyes, and then the snout. And then I also decided that I wanted the under portion of the eye to be a lot darker, so I'm going to add a lot more vibrant pink to this. I'm going to use that same pink to paint the inside portion of the nose just to create more of a dark shadowing effect. And then when I was painting the snout a little bit of a pink hue, I got it on the teeth, so I'm going to go over those and clean them up and make sure that they're solid white and they don't have any pink on them. Okay, so I'm really happy with how the face looks, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the paint is completely dry, mix up a small batch of resin, and then paint over the eyes and then the snout, and make sure to get the teeth as well. I don't have to do the rest of the face because again that's going to get covered up, and the resin will actually make it harder to have the fur stick to the face. Okay, so on to the paw pads. Now I have purple eyes for the creature, so I figured adding a bit more purple would be kind of fun, so I'm going to be painting the paw pads in nice solid purple. So I'm not going to do any other details to the paw pads, I'm just going to have them a solid color, so we'll have to make sure to do a few layers of this so the color is nice and vibrant, and then after that's dried, these are also going to get resined completely, so we're going to paint over the whole surface with a nice batch of resin. So our resin needs to sit overnight to dry and cure, so what we're going to do now is focus on the sewing and getting the body ready for being put together. Okay, so this is the pattern that I drew out really quick. I'm going to use this to cut out all my fabric pieces. So I have the main body, I have this cut into two different portions because I'm going to have a mane, and I want it to be kind of like a semi-natural red color, and then the rest of the body is going to be white. I might throw a little bit of the red on the tail as well. And then the patterns for the legs are nice and lengthy, especially the back legs, that way it looks a bit more rabbit-like. So I'm going to start with the sewing for the tiny tail, and like I said, I wanted to throw some red in, so one of the sides is going to be red and the other is going to be white. So we're going to sandwich these two pieces together, sew around them, make sure we don't close off the bottom portion. We're going to flip that right side out and stuff it a little bit. And then we're going to take the side pieces for the body. I have the mane separate from the rest of the body because they're two different colors, and we need to sew these two sides together. So we're going to get those sewn together, and then I'm going to sandwich these two pieces together and sew down the back of the cabbit. I'm going to stop a little bit before we get to the very end of it, and we're going to add the tail. So I'm going to put the tail into place, and we're going to sew it onto the very end of the body. Now for the legs. The legs are all going to have an inside portion and an outside portion, so we're going to take both of those, sandwich them together with the fur on the inside, and sew down the fronts of them only. We're going to do this to the front and back legs. Okay, so that's basically all the pre-sewing that we need to do. Our clay pieces are finally cured, and we can start putting our cabbit or our lion rabbit together. So I'm going to start with the body piece, and we're going to take the head and we're going to start gluing the head into place on the neck portion. So we're just going to take the fabric for the neck and go all the way around the base of the head. And like most of the time, I didn't make the measurements perfect, but again, that's perfectly fine because we can fix that very easy with a triangle of fur fabric. So after we have that glued into place, we're going to let it dry a little bit, and then we're going to start stuffing the body and closing it up. Once you have the body stuffed and closed up, we're going to take our hair trimmer and give our cabbit a nice shave. So we're going to be shaving down the sides, that way it's easier to connect the legs, and it just defines the shape of the body a bit more. While I'm doing this, I'm going to avoid doing the mane as much as I can, because I want it to be a little bit fluffier than the rest of the body. And then moving on to getting the legs ready, we're going to take those paw pads that we made earlier, and we're going to start gluing them into place at the ends of the feet. So we're just going to take the fabric at the very end of that foot, and we're going to start gluing and wrapping it around. I'm going to start with hot glue because it dries quicker and it holds into place, and then I'm going to switch over to fabric glue to make sure to get a nice strong hold, because this is going to hold better than the hot glue, but it takes longer to dry, so I just kind of like using a combination of the two. We're going to give that time to dry, and then we can start adding our legs onto our body. So I'm going to start with the front legs. I'm going to sew the under portion of the leg first, and then start sewing the kind of shoulder blade of the leg. We're going to get that into position. We're going to do the same thing with the back legs, and then we need to stuff and close these up. Once we have all the legs stuffed and closed up, we can then take our hair trimmer again and start shaving them as well. I'm mainly going to be shaving down the fronts of them. I can do a little bit of the backs, but I like having the leg hair a little bit longer in the back, just for preferences, no particular reason. Okay, so our body is basically done, and now we're going to move on to the face. Now before we start on the actual face, I need to make a pair of ears real quick. So I made a simple pattern, and I used both the white and the red fabric, and I'm going to sandwich it together. It's very similar to how we did the tail, except they're shaped more ear-like. So I made a left and a right ear, I flipped them, they're not going to get stuffed or anything, we want them hollow, and then I added a little bit of a wire frame to them so they hold their shape better. Once our ears are done, we're going to take them and then we're going to add them to the face. We're going to be gluing the wires that we have in the ears, and we're going to glue the base of those into those holes that we have on the top of the head. Once those are dried into place, I'm going to take my scissors along with my trimmer and just adjust the hair because the ears don't need to be this fluffy, and we're just going to shape them a bit more. Now we can start furring the face. So with the larger portions of the face, we can just cut pieces of the fur fabric to fit the face, and then once we have it to the point where we're kind of around the main features of the face, like the eyes and the snout, we're going to use hair trimmings and we're going to kind of glue that on. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay out a nice layer of glue, we're going to make sure it's nice and smooth, it's covered the surface, and then we're going to sprinkle on our hair trimmings. So after I have the face furred, everything's dried, we brushed away any excess fur that didn't stick, we can add a little bit extra detail by painting this. So I'm going to water down some of my acrylics and just kind of adjust things here and there, cleaning up the edges and stuff. Okay guys, and that is our lion rabbit. I had so much fun with this project. At first I thought it wasn't going to really work, but it actually came out pretty cute. It kind of looks like a little gremlin kitten. Anyways, I'm going to have him along with a bunch of other creatures in my Etsy shop, so if you want to buy anything, make sure to check the links down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!